Clay, a former member of the Special Forces unit in the secret organization known as the Beekeepers, decides to lead a peaceful life and rents a garage from Mrs. Parker, a retired school teacher who lives alone and is involved in a charity organization helping financially disadvantaged women and children. Mrs. Parker is grateful for Clay's kindness and is pleased to have him as her tenant. During dinner with Mrs. Parker, she receives a virus notification warning her hard drive is infected and advises her to contact a provided phone number to prevent permanent damage or data deletion. The number connects her to the headquarters of a criminal gang known for running phishing scams under the disguise of an antivirus company. A team of hackers successfully breaches her computer, gaining remote control and easily tracking some of her financial transactions. Mrs. Parker, who lacks knowledge about computer virus removal, seeks guidance from the manager, Garnet. Garnet offers Mrs. Parker her bank account information, promising compensation from their company. Mrs. Parker shares her bank account details with Garnet and receives $50,000 as compensation. However, Garnet later informs her that he was only authorized to send $500 and requests Mrs. Parker to return the excess money. Twice Mrs. Parker accesses her bank account on the computer to return the money to Garnet, and all her money vanishes instantly. Garnet and his team have successfully hacked her bank account, leaving Mrs. Parker in shock and losing not only her savings but also the funds belonging to the charity organization she manages. Clay is occupied with harvesting honey and plans to give the honey as a gift to Mrs. Parker. When he arrives at Mrs. Parker's house, he finds Mrs. Parker dead and a pistol beside her. FBI agent Verona believes Clay has something to do with Mrs. Parker's death, and she calls the local police. The police conduct a thorough investigation and take Clay to the police station for questioning. Verona reveals that her mother had fallen victim to a criminal syndicate notorious for their phishing scams, which led to the loss of her savings and the funds belonging to the charity organization. The police release Clay the following day, and Verona apologizes for wrongly accusing him of Mrs. Parker's death. The story revolves around a criminal syndicate, Garnet, who seeks justice for Mrs. Parker's tragic death. He uses all available resources and information to track down the fraudulent antivirus company managed by Garnet. Clay, with the help of beekeepers Swift and Garnet, incapacitates security personnel and confronts employees, demanding they pledge not to exploit vulnerable individuals like Mrs. Parker for financial gain. Garnet overpowers them and rigs a bomb to detonate. An explosion at the UDG headquarters destroys a significant portion of the building, and Garnet contacts his boss Danforth to report the incident. Danforth orders Garnet to hire thugs to eliminate Clay while Verona receives news of the explosion and feels satisfied. Garnet and his thugs track Clay's whereabouts while he tends to his farm. Clay is attacked by Garnet and his gang, but Clay defends himself and saves him by severed fingers as a stern lesson. Garnet escapes, and Verona discovers an identification card from the UGG company among the bodies recovered from the fire scene. Verona suspects Clay is directly involved in all incidents related to the UGG company. Garnet calls Danforth to report the failure of the assassination plan and the loss of his fingers. Clay then attacks Garnet while he is still on the phone with Danforth. Clay bounds Garnet's body with a lashing belt and sets it in motion, pulling his body into the water. Danforth remains on the phone line, realizing that Clay picked up Garnet's cell phone and informed him of his impending arrival to settle the matter. Verona and Matt search for information about Clay in the US government's databases but encounter dead ends. Verona concludes that Clay might be someone who had undergone specialized training within a secretive government organization, which even the FBI was unaware of. Garnet, a high-ranking member of UDG, is found drowned and tied to Clay's truck. Danforth meets with Wallace, a former head of the CIA who oversees his security. Wallace instructs Janet to eliminate Clay, who has retired from the Beekeepers. Janet tasks one of their agents, Anna, with assassinating Clay. Clay is ambushed by Anna but manages to evade the attack and overpower her. He then sets her on fire, causing the gas station to erupt in flames. The Beekeepers inform the CIA that they will remain neutral and not pursue Clay. With this information, Wallace takes matters into his own hands to eliminate Clay. He assembles a team of Special Forces members and discloses the beekeeper's existence to them. He portrays Clay as a rogue agent who poses a significant threat to innocent civilians. Verona and Matt arrive at the burned gas station and discover Anna's unidentifiable body. Clay uses Anna's severed finger to infiltrate her residence and access her computer, tracking the signal from Garnett's phone. Clay gathers weapons and explosives from Anna's place and leaves. Wallace and his special forces reach the 9-point building outside the FBI SWAT team, aware that Clay would strike the building. They allow employees inside the building to continue working as if nothing was wrong. Clay infiltrates the building and blends in with NSU employees, but one of the Special Forces members recognizes him and initiates an attack. Clay skillfully evades their attacks and promises to dismantle the company's owner if it jeopardizes the FBI's safety. In this movie, Rico, a police officer, is tasked with protecting innocent lives from the infamous Danforth Enterprises. The company, owned by the Danforth family, is involved in phishing scams and is owned by the President of the United States. Verona and her partner uncover the truth about Danforth's involvement, which could also pose a threat to the President. Verona and Matt are assigned to apprehend Clay while the SWAT team tightens security for the President and her family. Verona and Matt join Secret Service agents to provide security for the U.S. President and her son, who are hosting a charity event at their beachfront mansion. Wallace, worried about Danforth's safety, hires a group of mercenaries led by Lazarus to infiltrate the estate. Clay successfully infiltrates the estate, incapacitates a SWAT team member, and plants bombs on vehicles before assuming a disguise. Sir Jessica, the President's mother, discovers the extent of Danforth's wrongdoing and decides to expose his actions to Clay and the world. Clay fights his way through the building, injuring Secret Service agents but showing no mercy to the mercenaries hired by Wallace. Clay breaks into the President's office and fatally shoots Pre, who had planted an explosive device on the door. Danforth, panicked, takes his own mother hostage, and Verona attempts to convince him not to harm Jessica or her son. Danforth considers harming his mother to escape, but Clay decides to kill Danforth. In the end, Clay manages to flee the mansion, equipped with scuba gear. Verona chooses to let him go, prioritizing justice for her mother and other victims over strict adherence to the law. The moral lesson from the movie is to never disturb the beehives of a beekeeper lightly, as it could lead to severe consequences. Thank you for watching. If you like this story, don't forget like, share and subscribe to channel Goodbee. See you in the next videos.